Hello, Las Cruces. I'm Bev Courtney. I'm a candidate for mayor. And today we came to talk to you about the Crisis Triage Center. I personally have been touched by mental disorders with some of my family and some very close friends. So I've been wondering why we have the Crisis Triage Center sitting out on 17th Street and it's not operational. It was built in 2013 and ready to roll, and nothing ever came of it. Well, I went to a law enforcement panel, and every one of the law enforcement people there said that this was something that they really need. For example, if they pick up somebody on the street, they can either take them to the hospital, to the emergency room, or they can take them to the jail. And if they have a mental disorder, neither place fits them just right. So if they have the Crisis Triage Center, they can take them there and they will get 24-hour stay, and the mental health professionals will be able to help them find the care that they need and continue on. I've read two different estimates that 36% to either 44% of all of the people that end up in the county jail are because of mental disorders. So have you been touched by anybody you know, a neighbor, a family member? This is something that we need, that it will help us in the city have peace and have options for family who is dealing with it. So I invited Ben Rawson. He's former county commissioner, and Ben was on the county commission when that whole plan with the Crisis Triage Center fell through. So Ben, thank you for coming today.
Absolutely, Bev. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so what I want to ask you first is, what happened? Why is the Crisis Triage sitting there, having been built, $2 million I think it would cost, and it's not operational?
Yeah, I think that cost estimate is a little bit low. It was a bit more than that, but you know, really. So I'll talk about a little my history with it. In 2013, when I was first a commissioner, I asked to see that building right away because it had already been sitting vacant, and so I got a chance to go over there and look at it, and they were putting in the furniture right then, excited. They now had furniture. They'd get it up and operational. That was 2013. Here we are in 2019, and the facility still isn't in use. Part of what happened was in 2014 and 15, the commission changed the direction for that facility and said instead of being able to use that facility for diversion and reentry, they were only going to use it for inmates, for population at the detention center. Okay,
well that's important right there, Ben. Why did they change their mind? Because there was already a lot of effort put into getting it to that point.
Absolutely.
Right? Meetings, funding, and contracts.
And at that point, we had 10 entities that were wanting to come in and run the facility. So
wow.
A lot of great interest from surrounding areas, from entities that would have the staff that could handle it. And yet the commission decided to go a different direction, primarily due to some lobbying that was made on a couple of the commissioners that wanted to see that money stay in some of the private sector entities that we have here. The challenge is then when you take away diversion and reentry from possibilities for the Crisis Triage Center, there isn't enough need for it. And so what happens then at that point is we had all 10 of those entities dry up and not want to run the facility. So finally last year in 2018, when I was chairman of the county commission, we changed the direction again and said we're going to have it for diversion and reentry, and then to bring that back in.
So how would they say there's not a need? Because I was reading that, like I said, 36 to 44% of everybody that's in the county jail is really just a mental disorder. They're not criminals. They just need to be have some focused attention put on them for a little while.
And be stabilized.
And be stabilized and sent in the right direction. So how would they do that? Was like 340 something I read. And then there was 86 just from the public, not counting the jail. That's 464 was what I counted. How would they not see that as a big need?
Well, and that is the big need. So when we can use it for diversion and reentry for people going into the detention center and trying to keep people from going into the detention center, because as you said, you may have a situation where somebody is going to be arrested only because the law enforcement need to do something with them. They can't leave them out there.
Right.
Whereas if instead of detaining them, we could put them into a crisis triage center for a day, be able to stabilize a few things and be able to move forward, it gives them a lot better opportunity to be successful.
And so I know that a lot of times they go to the hospital, they go to the ER, and that's a huge expense to go to the ER. And at that law enforcement panel I went to this month, they said that one of those guys, 500 times he was arrested.
Wow.
And how many of those times did he go to the ER, and how much did that cost? So if you're weighing what the need is, I don't see how they would see we wouldn't need it.
Right.
We wouldn't need it. And here's the other thing is that I know that it was a county thing. Why would Governor Richardson veto it? I read that he actually vetoed it.
The first time the funding was requested. Yeah, I don't know why that would have occurred.
So that's my problem, why we have so many people running for city council, is what is his priority? What was the governor's priority? What was those county commissioners' priority? They were supposed to be using our tax money to service us, the citizens. So this has got to change. Ben, so the county took it on their own. They tried to get state funding. Why was the city not involved?
That's been a good question that we've had from the county level for a long time, but there hasn't been any interest in the city. And that's one of the things, Bev, that I hope you as our next mayor, in fact, I don't hope, I know for sure, that this will be an important thing for you to keep pursuing forward. But there hasn't been direction from the city to participate with the county. And that's what we really need. So the county process now, the consultants are about 30 days away from finalizing the plan to be able to go back out to bid. But again, we
so they're still working on it.
Yeah, but no involvement
city?
from the city.
None.
No.
None from the city. Because if you share the funding, right, if the city pulls in part of the funding, the county pulls in part of the funding, they got the state government who should be pulling in the funding, and then you got the federal government. And I had read that they actually had been able to get some money allocated from the federal government. And all of that work just went by the wayside. And so that's why I invited you today, because I feel like that it was just gross negligence on the part of our elected officials and also our tax money. Because why is our tax money used to go into business? Tell me some other things that they're using our tax money for, Ben, that you think.
Oh, well, I mean, the buses are an easy one.
They just started those again?
Right, at the county level. But really, when we're looking at the crisis triage center, it's so needed in our community. And the cost can be offset through savings at the detention center.
And the hospital.
That's right. When you're not putting people in the detention center that don't belong there, that it isn't going to help them be more successful in life and isn't going to help the community, then that's a waste of money. So by putting it into a crisis triage center where we're really helping the individuals who need the help, we can be much more successful as a community.
I'm sure that people at the detention center would really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I am sure people in the emergency room would really appreciate it.
Yes, indeed.
So anyway, what is the next step for the city? Even if I'm elected or not elected, I'm probably going to lobby for this, because I see it as a big need. And I know in New Mexico that a large part of our youth, there's a larger percentage of the youth that deal with mental illness. It's from like 9 to 28 or something. So if we can intervene in their life earlier and they get the care they need, I think it's going to set a precedent for the rest of their life.
I think you just recognizing what they really need and giving them that support is what will help them be successful.
Yes.
And that's what we've got to keep the focus on.
So what about the city? What do you think, if I were mayor, what would I do to go forward?
Directing staff to engage with the county and be a part of the process.
Okay.
Because this county facility will serve not just county residents, but it'll serve city residents. And
So finding out what the funding needs are, finding out what portion that the city could put, and where it would come from.
But even more important than the funding is directing staff to work together with the county staff, for the Health and Human Services departments to work together in conjunction with law enforcement to talk about what's this process look like, how do we get people in, get them the help they need, and get them back out in the community on their feet in a good manner.
Well, I can say it's actually something that I would look forward to doing. You know, I don't know a whole lot about it, the inner workings of the city, but I do take initiative and I do get things done. I mean, I homeschooled.
Absolutely.
I got my kids all the way through high school, and, you know, 2 of them are doctors, and one of them, my youngest son, is actually in EMT training.
That's great.
And some of my granddaughter's a nurse, and some of our family friends are in EMT training. And my kids, both of my kids actually worked in the emergency rooms. And they had to have big, heavy boys dealing with these certain kinds of individuals. And then I actually ran into them in the parking lot, people that they just put right there on the street, and they didn't have a ride to go anywhere.
No help.
In the parking lot.
Yeah, and that's the first-hand knowledge that when you take that first-hand knowledge, it helps you make better decisions as a mayor.
So, Ben, thank you. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I have some other questions.
Terrific.
And some other concerns that I want to bring about to the citizens of Las Cruces. So we'll be right back. Hi, I'm Bev Courtney, candidate for mayor for Las Cruces. One reason that I'm running is I want to shine the light on our election process. Election integrity is the foundation of our democracy. We have some people in the community who advocate for foreign nationals to vote, and I don't believe that you approve of that. So, one citizen, one verified vote, and I will work on that for us. Another reason is I would like to be a good steward of taxpayer money. We have a lot of special interests and a lot of agendas, but the city seems to forget about the taxpayer. So I want to represent you and be your voice and make what is a priority for you a priority for me. And then I know that our future is our children. So I want to invest in our children, whether it's community centers, whether it's making good soccer fields for them, making sure that they're safe and secure in their environment and at school. We need to focus on that because we can't have a future without them. So ranked choice voting has happened. I'm number 5 on the ballot position. So I want you to just go to number 5, make me your number 1 choice, and vote for me. Thank you.
Horizon Granite is here.
It's here. Horizon Granite is here. We'll come to you to customize your kitchen and bathroom with beautiful countertops and cabinets. Find out more at horizongranite.com. Call us at 575-650-3180.
Horizon Granite is here.
It's here.
Make yourself a beautiful home.
Hi, I'm Ray Bamberg with Here on Earth. I would like to invite you for a free hearing evaluation to our office. We've been here in southern New Mexico for 34 years helping people hear better.
Hello, Bev here. I'm running for mayor, and we're back after the break. I do want to remind you that you can still early vote this week at City Hall and at the County Commission building. And if you haven't checked out ranked choice voting, go online, Secretary of State's website or the county clerk's website, and check it out before you go, so it'll speed up the process. Because on election day, with 10 candidates, who knows what's going to happen. But anyway, I have Ben Rawson with me, and Ben and I were talking about the Crisis Triage Center and why it's not operational. It's been sitting an empty building since 2013, and here it is 6 years later, and it's still not operational.
That's right.
So we talked about the funding. The county was going to fund it.
Correct.
And you had federal funding.
There was some federal funding, some state funding, but a lot of that can be financed from the savings at the detention center.
Okay, and also I know that ER visits are hugely expensive because
Absolutely.
that's part of the problem is people will use the ER for just regular health care. And we have fantastic ER, emergency rooms. They cover every base that they can. It's wonderful, but it's not where you can, it shouldn't replace your regular health care. Prevention and maintenance, so that's what we're going to talk about. The New Mexico Department of Health and Human Resources says that a large population in New Mexico has mental disorders. And so we can't leave those kids, those young people, high and dry, Ben.
That's right.
And so you said that you did get state funding because I had mentioned that Governor Richardson had vetoed the first request or up front, but you did manage to get funding.
There has been some funding off and on that's been on the table. It'll really depend on getting it operational and then getting to that point. But most of that funding is going to come from the county.
Okay. And then if the city put our 2 cents in, then it would be, we want it to be well provided for. We want to have lots of professionals. We don't want anybody to be out on the street because they will screen people and they will help them find the care they need, especially if they're suicidal and if they may be prone to hurt other people. This is a place where they can be screened and helped and not turned out as a loose cannon, where they might go ballistic. This is so important.
Well, and being helped by an expert in the field, too. Someone
Yes.
that understands these things, understands how some of the interactions of different medications and maybe other things that those individuals are on as well, and being able to stabilize them so that they can make good decisions.
Yes, and it helps the family.
Absolutely.
So they can work with the family members and they all can do what they need to do to help that person become healthy and whole.
That's right.
So, what the question is, why do we have so many young people that have mental disorders that are unstable?
I'm sure there's a lot better people to answer that question than me. But the truth is, we have a ton of them here in our community. And it impacts people that you wouldn't always realize that it impacts.
That's right.
And so, somebody who could
It's not even among the poor.
That's right. No.
It's everybody.
It's all the way across. It's an illness that affects a lot of different people. So being able to address those needs, help them stabilize, not just put them in the detention center, which doesn't help them at all, and oftentimes
Not
can
at
make
all.
the situation they're going through
Doesn't
even
help
worse.
the detention center either,
No.
or the other inmates.
No.
So, I'll be honest, I believe in a traditional family and that it takes a mother and a father to raise a child. And broken families lead to broken people, because you and I both know, and who doesn't know, that we're living in a stressful world.
Sure.
And people suffer anxieties for a multitude of reasons. And if we're going to be successful, we need to take care of our own. If we're going to be a strong community, we've got to take care of the most needy and the most vulnerable. And so that takes us back to our children. I went to a meeting about ACE. It was about childhood trauma and how if that happens to a child, they carry these things into their adult life. And so it's good for all of us to have good, healthy families, to raise children in a safe, secure environment from their family home to their school. And so, Ben, today is the first day that the state has, they passed this new bill, I don't know what it's called, but where you can put X in place of the gender on a child's birth certificate. And I'm telling you, this is a very destructive policy that the state of New Mexico has. And I can only hope that most parents are going to watch out for the health of their child. Because if you distort the basic facts of life, that you cannot be certain beyond a shadow of a doubt that I'm a female or I'm a male, what can you be sure about? So we need this crisis triage center because this policy is going to have unintended consequences. And if we can't protect our children any better than that, it's not going to be good for anybody in the community. And it's just a fact that the LGBTQ community have a higher incidence of mental disorders because it's hard to go against the nature.
Well, if I could jump in, Bev,
Please.
that's part of why we need the city to get involved. I mean, this crisis triage center has been something that's been happening from the county with very limited, if any, support from the city at all.
I
Not
don't
just
understand
financial.
that.
There's been no financial support from the city, but even having staff work together and be able to work with us on coming up with a plan. I say us, I'm no longer on the county commission, but work with the county to come up with that. We need the county and the city staff to be to be working together on that.
I agree 100%, Ben. But what does the city do? They got involved in the gun issue. You know, we have the state constitution that backs up the U.S. Constitution. They can't do anything about it at the city level.
That's right.
But since they got in it, and if anybody wants to get in it, I'm going to say we should be a Second Amendment sanctuary city, because the world is more troubled with their policies.
But the city's more interested in tackling an issue they can't make any change
And they're
on
very
than
worried
really helping our community that needs the help with the crisis
about
triage center.
sustainability.
Sustainability, sure.
I'm all for sustainability, and that and we can do things here. There's a lot that they ignore. Like, have you heard of planned obsolescence? Where it's big manufactured goods are manufactured so that they break and grow old before their time, and that's a huge sustainability question that nobody talks about. But back to our children. I believe that we can protect the hearts and the minds of our children, whether it's early childhood development, whether it's counseling for parents, how to be a good parent, help a parent not live in poverty. That goes a long ways. Keep drugs off the street. I think drugs are #1 cause of homelessness. And so those people often end up in the ER or in the jail because, they end up with a crisis just because emotionally they are out on the street and they don't have a support system. And if we have to be that for them, we should be that.
And even when they're going to those facilities, they're not getting the help they truly need to be successful in life.
So we need a redirection of what the city's priorities are.
That's right. The city needs to be focusing on things they can do. And I know that's one thing you'll bring to the city.
Thank you.
And so
Thank you,
I'm
Ben.
looking forward to that.
The Crisis Triage Center, and I don't think that we have so many problems that are too great for us to handle.
Just have to focus on them. We've got some great people, but we
We
need
are
to
great
focus on
people.
solving those problems.
People
that we can
that
affect.
want to help. I was reading on the articles about the Crisis Triage Center that some people have been advocates for years.
Yeah.
And once I started talking about it, people have coming to me with their stories. And it's a challenge for the family. So if they have a safety net and a care net, that's what our priority should be. Because we'll have productive members of our society. And we can go into the future and keep, making Las Cruces great and keep peace and prosperity for everybody. And it'll be good, people will be happy out on our streets, not having sirens everywhere and accidents and incidents on the streets all the time. That's not what we want.
Right.
So,
Well, and I have to say, I'm really grateful that you're bringing this to the forefront and making this an issue that other candidates are now talking about too, because this is something that's important to you.
and I will continue. I will continue. If I have to go to the state and lobby, I'm going to be the taxpayer, the Las Cruces citizen. I'm going to be your best lobby and look out for you, the things that you need. So, Ben, I really appreciate you. And thank you for coming, and come and help me if I win.
Absolutely. I look forward to working with you.
Okay, thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you. Don't forget to go vote. I'm Bev Courtney, and I'm your candidate for mayor 2019, and we can move the city forward into peace and prosperity. That's my whole goal. I'm Bev Courtney, and I approve this message. Carol Cooper, Treasurer.